Okay, so here are the different tools. I showed you the wire tool, which is for cutting cheese or clay. We have the spritz bottle, which you'll find is useful for a couple things to make the clay wetter, obviously, but also, let me just adjust it so it's spraying, not streaming. It can be useful to wet down your surface a little bit if you feel that your clay is drying out or you're working on it. The other thing you can do with the spritz bottle is if your clay gets a little dry, you can spray it and then wrap it in plastic and wait a couple hours or a day or something like that, and it'll recover. Let's see. What's the next tool? Next tool, and I can remake my man or my creature thing, is the needle tool. So be a little careful of the needle tool because it is quite sharp, but I find it better than a knife for cutting through things, right? We can remove it, we can extract an eyeball if you would like. So it's good for cutting, and you just clean it and mash that clay back into it. You have a number of carving tools, which, so, oh, Diane, do you know the name of this exact tool?
I did.
Okay.
I'll think of it in a minute.
It's the big carving tool. And
it's a loop tool.
Loop tool.
Loop.
Yeah. Okay. And you use it, you drag it along, and it cuts and removes material. Right. And the big one removes more. Then you have another one, which is really useful. I use it more often. It's the smaller loop tool, and it has a square end and a round end. And this will sound kind of juvenile, but the square end cuts square parts out, and the roundy end cuts round parts out. Now we have two other tools. I'll have to remake my man in a little bit, or person. We have two other tools, which are this scoring tool. No, it's not a scoring tool. Diane, my brain broke again. No, okay. You have this tool. I'll show you how to use it. And this tool, which is a rib. And generally they're used for throwing, working on a wheel, but they can also be used quite nicely for sculpting. So you can use the kind of spoon end of this tool to kind of smooth or mash things out.
John, the one before that didn't have a name is to like cut an angle, like when you have something just standing up from the ground and you want to.
Oh, this one.
Cut it at an angle. So
right.
You hold it so that it's angled, and then it can cut the clay. When you get to that point, you can do a demo on that.
I will.
It's a really good tool.
It's this one you're speaking of, right?
As a quick note, John, for the ones who have the pottery tools from us, the paper, the label on the back has the name of the tools also. What? Yeah, and I think it also describes what they're good for.
Awesome. It's a good tool. Yeah.
Oh, it's a modeling tool. Yeah, so it's a good tool. And then, it's usually used for the wheel.
Take it. We have large amounts.
And then we have the rib tool, which is, again, you would usually use on a wheel, where you would, if it's spinning, you can imagine pressing up against it to kind of make an edge that's round, or squaring something off, or scoring the bottom to make a foot on a pot. But I find it really useful, and I tend to use it flat, and it helps me make really nice, kind of larger, softer, smooth surfaces. And then the last one, which we have, oh, I'm making a jumble. One of the other tools we have is the brush, and that's included in the kit for glazes. But as long as you keep it clean, you can use it for clay. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Is the brush, when wet, I'll just dip in my coffee. It can really come in and nicely clean up an area. So it can really smooth some things out. I don't know if you can see that. Let me tip it this way. So it can work out some of those cracks a little bit. And just make sure you clean it. Just in the sink is perfectly fine. It's clay. It can go down the, you don't want to throw a whole brick down the sink, but cleaning a brush with clay on it is perfectly fine. And it can really make kind of nice, smooth contours for you. And then we have the last tool we have, zoom out. There we go. After it finishes bouncing, is we have the sponge, and the sponge would be used normally, again, another tool that's traditionally used for throwing, but it can also, when moistened, really kind of sculpt some kind of smaller and really smooth out some areas like a sponge. It can also be used like a regular sponge and kind of mop up your water, but I use it to sculpt and smooth areas a little bit. That's